Your Flab Blaster now. It's only $19.99. 2 for $20.99. Call 1-800-228-4665. Save the COD charges by sending $19.99 plus $3 shipping and handling to Flab Blaster, Box 7111, Des Moines. Order a second Flab Blaster for only $1 more. You get 2 for only $20.99. Order now.
In Ottumwa, tune to Translator Channel 74 for better reception of TV8.
Good morning. I'm Charles Kuralt, and this is Sunday Morning. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. If you're arrested, the arresting officer has to say that to you before he says anything else. More than 20 years ago, the Supreme Court, concerned about policemen extracting confessions from suspects who didn't know they had a right to silence under the law, issued the so-called Miranda ruling. Just in case you don't know, the court said the police have to tell you. Now we have an Attorney General who wants to reverse that ruling. Our cover story, reported by David Culhane, will be about the right to remain silent.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in the court of law. Go for it.
The police officer is reading the Miranda rules to a suspect. But if the Reagan administration has its way, the police will not have to read these warnings when they arrest someone. The Justice Department says it would welcome an opportunity to challenge the Miranda rules before the Supreme Court. Later this morning, we'll report on the fierce controversy this stand has produced in the world of law and politics.
Marlene Sanders will report a story from Oregon, where people trying to save centuries-old trees are fighting what you could call the Second Battle of Bunker Hill. Judy Muller's story is about Mookie's roses.
With a lot of care, roses can grow almost anywhere. Baseball player Mookie Wilson and his wife Rosa care a great deal about their roses. We'll meet members of their girls' club, Mookie's Roses, later on Sunday Morning.
Eugenia Zuckerman will join us this morning. She's going to talk about the English horn and a man who plays it better than anybody else. Ron Powers will be here to talk about how television is affecting the newspaper industry. Bill Plante and Phil Jones are in Washington. We'll talk to them about what's going on down there. We'll review the news of the week, as we always do. And we'll begin with the headlines for Sunday, February 22nd, George Washington's real birthday. The police in France raided a farm near Orléans and arrested 3 men and a woman who they think are the most dangerous terrorists in France. They're thought to be members of Action Directe, the group that claimed responsibility for the murder last year of George Best, the chairman of the Renault car company. The Washington Post reports this morning that the personal secretary to Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North has been granted immunity from prosecution by the special counsel investigating the Iran-Contra arms scandal. Fawn Hall told investigators she helped Oliver North destroy key documents just hours before the Justice Department arrived to examine the files. In the Philippines today, there are fireworks and flag raisings and dancing in the streets as people celebrate the first anniversary of the ouster of Ferdinand Marcos. The Philippine Army has been placed on full alert in case either communist rebels or Marcos loyalists should try to disrupt the festivities.
For a delicious meal, you just can't find a better place than the Choice All-You-Care-to-Eat Smorgasbord. A bountiful soup and salad bar, large variety of entrees, open flame broiler with barbecued ribs, evenings and Sundays, there's even shish kebabs and royal roast baron of beef. Now the Choice introduces for lunch and dinner Oriental stir-fry shrimp, a delicious blend of shrimp and crisp vegetables stir-fried on the grill. All this under $4 for lunch, under $5 for dinner. Try the Choice All-You-Care-to-Eat Smorgasbord. 1801 22nd Street.
Yes, sir. That's my baby. No, sir. I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir. That's my baby now.
Oh, baby, you
nobody but you.
Watch this roadshow video movie in your home tonight.
Right now, the Edge at Lentz Chevrolet is working harder than ever by giving you up to $1,000 rebates on many of our most popular models, plus special 3.9% financing or a cash back on S10 Blazers and S10 pickups. And on selected units, you can get up to $750 in no-charge factory options. So get the Edge today with factory rebates, 3.9% financing, and no-charge factory options at Lentz Chevrolet in Indianola.
Chevrolet.
TV8 News takes you there. TV8's Rick Swalwell files an exclusive report as Special Agents smash a major black market poaching ring in eastern Iowa. TV8's Steve Oswald outlines new legislative recommendations for leasing space in other states' World Trade Centers. And TV8's Dana Carton reports a happy ending in Albia. Community leaders there raised $2 million to reopen the People's State Bank 1 year after it closed. Be a part of it all. News Alive on TV8.
Catch the news alive, TV8. Be a part of it all.
Robert Gates was William Casey's deputy at the CIA, and he is President Reagan's choice to succeed his former boss. Last week, the Senate Intelligence Committee questioned the man who will probably be the next director of the CIA. Gates said he suspected that money from the sale of arms to Iran was being diverted to Nicaraguan Contras.
I do.
But he said he did not know enough to warrant telling the Congress.
I regarded what little information I had as worrisome, but extraordinarily flimsy.
Gates said William Casey had handled Iran and Central America, that he had taken care of the rest. What would he do if he found out about another covert operation?
Well, the first thing I would do would be to hop in a car and come up here.
Well, you're learning, Mr. Gates.
Nobody ever accused me of being slow, Senator.
Members of the Tower Commission went to Bethesda Naval Hospital to question Robert McFarland, who is still there following his suicide attempt. McFarland said he and his aides doctored the chronology of the arms sales to protect the president. The Tower Commission report is due out next week. President Reagan seemed to suggest that his chief of staff, Donald Regan, might be leaving.
The people that I've asked to come into government feel that they have to return to private life. That's their business, and I will never try to toss them out.
There were rumors that Donald Regan and Nancy Reagan aren't on speaking terms.
The Contra effort rather obviously has poisoned our national government and weakened the administration because of the zealotry with which some within that administration have pursued the Contra war.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee voted to halt military aid to the Contras. Contra leader Adolfo Calero resigned from the United Nicaraguan Opposition, but he said he would keep control of his own U.S.-backed army.
After a nuclear war, there would be no problems. There would be no one to sit down at a tree stump or at a boulder, let alone a table for negotiations. A second Noah's Ark will not survive the nuclear deluge.
Mikhail Gorbachev spoke at an international forum on peace and disarmament in Moscow.
He didn't sound like a politician for 1 minute, which means he's either the best politician in the world or maybe he means it.
Later in the week, Jewish dissident Yosef Begun was freed, and there were signs the Soviets planned to resume nuclear testing. A retired Cleveland auto worker, John Demyanyuk, went on trial in Israel. He is accused of committing atrocities at the Treblinka death camp in Poland during the Second World War. Demyanyuk says they have the wrong man.
I realize that I've committed very serious crimes for which I'm very sorry, and it was a very painful lesson to learn.
Investment banker Dennis Levine was sentenced to 2 years in prison for insider trading. The stock market continued to set new records in spite of all the recent insider trading arrests.
The decision I've made, I think, is best for my state, best for my family, and I think also best for my party. I will not be a candidate.
Saying that, New York Governor Mario Cuomo took himself out of consideration for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1988.
I think that I should have the right to be able to smoke in a restaurant after dinner.
Beverly Hills became the first community in California to ban smoking in restaurants.
I will not be dining in Beverly Hills.
Takes care of it.
That's that.
I love basketball. Yes, it's a major part of my life. I mean, like if I'm ever feeling down or anything, I go out and pick up a basketball and I always feel better afterwards.
Len Lorenzen of Ventura, Iowa, population 600, became the first high school basketball player in the country to score more than 6,250 points, about a basket a minute.
This portion of Sunday Morning is brought to you by Apple Computer, makers of Macintosh Personal Computer, the business solution that gives you the power to be your best.
They here yet?
Plenty of time. It's only 7:45.
What's so interesting?
Those two down there.
Oh, that's Wilson and Bennett. A couple of hot shots from finance.
What are they carrying?
Oh, those are computers.
Computers? They're taking our computers home at night?
Not exactly. They're bringing their computers in.
You're kidding. What for?
Well, for one thing, that's how they put together these killer forecasts.
You mean we can't do this on our system?
Nope. Not like this.
Okay, 2 questions. What kind of computers are they using?
And?
And why don't we have them?
I never knew this about you.
Are you impressed?
Well, I am now.
Oh, it's fantastic. So what's it called?
And?
Forget the fiber, fruit and fiber. You're gonna love it, just for the taste.
Only Fruit and Fiber has all these lush combinations, overflowing with sweet fruit, fresh, crunchy nuts, and surrounded with the highest fiber flakes.
I love it.
You're gonna love it, just for the taste.
Post Fruit and Fiber cereal. Tastes so good you forget the fiber.
Dad?
Julie, look at your hay fever.
Oh, she hasn't had a sniffle all day. And they're ready to dance all night.
Thanks to research by Dow's pharmaceutical subsidiary, millions like Julie may now find relief from allergies without the drowsiness often associated with allergy treatments.
You can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Save me a dance.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
For very good reason, based on their experience with British justice, the writers of the Constitution put this in the Bill of Rights: no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. But what if you don't know that? In 1966, the Supreme Court said, well, the police have to tell you. The Miranda ruling came into being, the poor man's Fifth Amendment, it's been called. Now it is being challenged as unnecessarily restrictive on the police. Well, what about that? David Culhane reports on the right to remain silent.
Jack in the Box, 16th Street in Van Buren. A male there says he was assaulted by 2 males. One was with a complaint.
It is near midnight in Phoenix, Arizona. This is a routine police patrol.
Boy, they need a front end alignment on this thing.
The police hear a radio report of a man weaving unsteadily on a motorcycle. He is stopped and charged with drunk driving.
Okay, off the curb.
And then the arresting officer reads to him something that has become part of American folklore.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in a court of law.
The Miranda rules.
An attorney to assist you prior to questioning. Go for it. And to be with you during questioning if you so desire. Go for it.
The case that produced the Miranda rule took place here in Phoenix. Ernesto Miranda was arrested and charged with kidnapping and raping an 18-year-old girl. Miranda confessed to the police. He was tried and found guilty. But on appeal in 1966, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 to throw out the conviction because Miranda had not been advised of his legal rights to remain silent and to have a lawyer. The court also established a set of warnings that must be given to all suspects concerning their rights against self-incrimination.
Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Now the Reagan administration wants to reverse the Supreme Court decision. The Justice Department thinks the Miranda warnings are making the job of fighting crime unnecessarily difficult. Attorney General Edwin Meese.
Well, I think the main thing is there are better ways to ensure that the police conduct proper investigations.
That stand has produced a major row in the world of law and politics.
We're going to have to just deal every week with these kinds of issues on Miranda and exclusionary and
At this Senate Judiciary Committee hearing earlier this month, the Attorney General answered angry complaints from committee members.
Decision has worked well for 20 years, contributed to the improvement in the quality of law enforcement.
Miranda is a relatively new decision in the constitutional history of the United States. It said things that were specifically repudiated for nearly 175 years of our constitutional history. It's been severely criticized by a number of legal scholars and almost universally by law enforcement officers.
Okay, you have the right to remain silent.
I'm under arrest.
Yes, you are.
In his Miranda opinion, Chief Justice Earl Warren spelled out specific warnings based on the Constitution that police must give suspects.
Any questions? I got to read this to you.
The warnings are designed to counter the psychological pressures of interrogation, the intimidating atmosphere of police custody, and the possibility of outright coercion.
You have a right to remain silent.
The simple object is to avoid having suspects confess to crimes they did not commit.
Discuss this matter. You have a right to stop answering my questions at any time that you desire. You have a right to a lawyer before speaking to me. To remain silent until you can talk to him and to have him present while you're being questioned. You understand that?
I'd say that if there was only one case in which evidence was thrown out at trial and caused an individual who was guilty of a criminal activity to be released to prey upon society again, that's one case too many.
Stephen Markman, an assistant attorney general, is the author of a 120-page report that was released last month. The report attacks the Miranda ruling and recommends a new effort by the Justice Department to seek reversal of the decision. Markman thinks the rights of suspects could better be protected by videotaping interrogations.
If occasionally guilty individuals stub their toes and provide information to the police that they might have withheld had they known more information about what they could have refused to talk about, well, that's fine too. I don't have any feeling that the criminal justice system has to be that solicitous of individuals who've committed wrongdoing.
The reality is that innocent people confess to crimes. And what Miranda tends to do is protect innocent people by not extracting confessions from those who are vulnerable.
Civil rights lawyer Richard Emery thinks the whole point of the Miranda ruling is that our justice system must continue to presume that suspects are innocent until proven guilty.
I think Miranda doesn't hinder crime fighting in any way. I think in fact, it aids it by having clarity in the system. But it aids it more specifically by requiring the police to do a proper investigation and not rely on coercive measures or other measures, because the easy way out of any investigation is just to extract a confession from the suspect.
Put it down, Driscoll! You have the right to remain silent. If you give up the right to remain silent, anything you say can and will be used against you.
If you watch any show on television, you see the Miranda rules. Almost every suspect knows that he or she has a right not to speak unless a lawyer is present, or if it's entirely voluntary, because most suspects, or most people in our society, watch TV.
I didn't do nothing, I swear! You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to retaliate and you take candidates against the court of law.
Ernesto Miranda was freed by the Supreme Court decision in 1966, but he was tried and convicted again. He went to jail.
It was actually a very routine case. Nobody thought anything about the case at the time, other than it was another one of the very many cases we had in the office.
Lawrence Turoff represented the state in the original case, and he's now the senior trial attorney in the prosecutor's office in Phoenix.
What was the original feeling among law enforcement people?
The original feeling was that they were going to have difficulty making cases. that if they had to give the advice that they're now required to give, there wouldn't be any more confessions or admissions. And I think it has not affected them that badly.
So, in fact, what do you think the result has been?
Probably better investigated cases.
Kuralt thinks that police and prosecutors have learned to live with the Miranda rules.
I don't believe it's affected us greatly, or it hasn't affected me greatly. I think the cases are strong when they come in, for the most part, and we don't have to rely solely on a confession.
But many police officers think the Miranda rules do make it harder to get convictions.
Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything
They believe they are often blocked from talking to the one person who can help solve a crime, and that many cases do depend on a confession for conviction.
I don't believe it's necessary at this point in time to have this restriction on law enforcement from talking to somebody.
Thomas Agnos is in charge of the investigations division of the Phoenix Police Department.
There are some very streetwise people in the criminal world who are very smart, and they can't read or write, but they'll con your shoes right off of you if you give them a chance. So to somehow say that criminals are mentally incompetent and have to be watched out for by giving these warnings, I just don't buy into. I don't think it's a valid proposition.
Confessions are easy to come by. It's much more important that our police do proper investigations and fix on suspects who are probably guilty.
Richard Emery says that the civil rights community would strenuously oppose any effort to reverse the Miranda decision.
How would you want it to be if you were accused of a crime? Would you want it to be so that they could extort or extract a confession from you? No, you'd want to know your rights, especially if you were poor and unsophisticated. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the defendant.
Justice Department sources say that if the right case develops, they will support an effort before the Supreme Court to get the Miranda decision reversed. But they say there's no guarantee that an appropriate case will come along during these last years of the Reagan administration.
The Attorney General said that he is looking...
Assistant Attorney General Stephen Markman.
We are indeed constantly looking through the state and the federal criminal justice system to see whether or not there are cases appropriate for federal involvement.
I have no doubt that the Justice Department has had a strategy to undermine Miranda for some time during the Reagan years. But I think as a practical matter, it's more posturing, it's politics, it's an appeal to the conservative constituency of this administration, particularly of Mr. Meese, also of Mr. Reagan.
I think indeed the instinct of the average guy on the street is a very good instinct. It's a positive instinct. He doesn't want to deny any individual their legitimate constitutional rights, but at the same time he is sick and tired at seeing what this criminal justice system is doing to domestic tranquility in our society.
You have the right to the presence of an attorney to assist you prior to questioning. All right, Jack, go for it. And to be with you during questioning if you so desire. Go for it.
I think, in fact, there is no hope of overturning Miranda. Miranda has worked for 20 years. It may not work perfectly, but the principle of Miranda, the principle that we are not going to extract confessions, that we're not going to trick people into giving us confessions, is the cornerstone of American criminal process.
I know all my rights.
I'm going to answer any questions. I got to read this to you.
I would suggest that we ought to look very long and very hard, not only at Miranda, but at other elements of our criminal justice system that depart from the search for the truth.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions.
And have him present while you're being questioned. You understand that?
Go for it. Cannot afford an attorney. You have the right to have an attorney appointed to you prior to questioning. You understand your rights? I got them, big guy. Okay, will you answer my questions? Go for it. Thank you very much.
When investors wanted to reduce the high risk in high tech, Prudential Bates created PruTech 1 and 2.
This has real potential.
Select portfolios built on identifying promising products and companies on the leading edge of scientific frontiers.
This new process is incredible.
A first of its kind for the personal investor and a way to share in the growth available through technologies.
All right, let's go.
If anyone can show you a more advanced approach towards new and better ways to make money, it's Prudential Bates.
rock solid, market-wise.
Women have no time for irregularity, yet women are constipated 3 times more often than men. That's why there's Correctol laxative. Its gentle overnight action helps you feel like yourself again. Correctol, the gentle laxative so many women prefer.
When night leg cramps strike, get help from Dr. Scholl's with Legatrin. Unlike Tylenol, aspirin, or even ibuprofen, Legatrin relaxes knotted muscles to relieve painful cramps. Legatrin says goodnight to night leg cramps.
The American dream is one of hope and possibilities. We're GMAC, people who help make dreams come true. First, we made automobile financing easy. Now, home mortgages, financing for a boat, even MIC insurance to keep your dreams safe. We're the financial services people from General Motors. GMAC, official sponsor of America's dreams.
Go by fast. Your work never seems to end.
That's why we stand behind every Whirlpool appliance with our 24-hour Cool Line telephone service to help with problems or questions, and our national network of authorized tech care service outlets. Whirlpool, quality appliances.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
Tonight, when a friend takes a fall for murder,
Harry was framed.
can Jessica KO the killer?
This time he's going to be after you.
Ernest Borgnine, LeVar Burton, Jerry Orbach, and Angela Lansbury star in a special 90-minute Murder, She Wrote. Then Julia's got competition.
She has a butt you could serve tea on.
Hal Holbrook guest stars.
It's all over.
Designing Women. And when a veteran cop makes a fatal mistake with a drug-crazed prisoner.
It was my gun.
Who will pay? Hard copy tonight.
This is CBS.
Round and round it goes.
If you drove a Volvo 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year for 3 years, you'd still be covered by Volvo's 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. Of course, Volvo doesn't stop there.
Where it stops, nobody knows.
Volvo, a car company you can believe in.
Select your new Volvo now at Dave Ostrom Imports, Des Moines Automotive Showcase.
We'll sing you a song. We'll make you laugh.
We'll make you think.
Have we got stories to tell you? We'll teach you to bug dance. We make you feel at home.
Tennessee will put a song in your heart and help you remember. You'll have the time of your life in Tennessee. We'll take you for a roll on the river and then twang, pluck, pick, pound, thump, strum, drum, clap, and stomp for you.
We'll show you a good time. That's what we'll do.
Tennessee sound, Tennessee sound great.
You're on TV8, KCCI TV, Des Moines.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
It's the French horn that's shaped like this and made of metal. The English horn is shaped like this and made of wood. That's my music lesson for you this morning. Eugenia Zuckerman is here to tell us more about what is, after all, a fairly unusual instrument. Is it English, the English horn?
Well, nobody knows for sure how it got the name English horn. One of the theories is that originally the body of the instrument had an angle in it and was called in French cor anglais, meaning angled horn. But if you spell anglais just a little differently, it also means English. So perhaps it was just one of those mistakes that took.
Yeah. Not every orchestra even has an English horn, I suppose, and those that have, I thought it was always an ensemble instrument. I didn't know you could solo on the thing.
I think traditionally the three instruments that have had solo stature are piano, violin, and cello. That's been traditional because of the vastness of repertoire and the familiarity, but in the last 25, 30 years, there have been trailblazers. For example, Segovia popularized the guitar, Ron Paul the flute, Stoltzman the clarinet, Gary Carr the double bass, and why not the English horn?
When it's played as a solo instrument, does it work?
I think it works particularly well because of its sound. You know, the ancient Greeks said that the string instrument speaks to the intellect and the wind instrument to the soul. And for me, the sound of the English horn speaks so very directly to the soul, to the center of things. It's a sound that is dark and melancholic and very sensual. It's haunting, it's very evocative, and capable really of extraordinary nuance, especially when it's played by Thomas Stacy.
What kind of sound you're going to call this?
Many times I walk on the stage and I can hear people in the audience say, "Oh, I thought it was going to be one of those round brass things."
Good evening. Truthfully, how many of you were expecting a round brass? The English horn is a...
The English horn might be described as the forgotten stepchild of the double reed family.
below the oboe, or today we say 700.
Like its first cousin, the oboe, it is straight and made of wood. This English horn is played by a man Leonard Bernstein has called not only a master of his instrument, but a poet among craftsmen. He is Thomas Stacy, first and only English horn of the New York Philharmonic, and on this night, guest soloist with the Nassau Symphony. Think to yourself, it might have been easier had you played the violin or the piano, in terms of having a life in music?
It would be easier to have a solo career. Because I think the English horn is a hard sell, frankly, as soloist. Because many people don't know what it is, but, you know, they are the daring ones, and it's coming around, I think. That's what I mean. See, they sound like an English horn.
Tom Stacy and his wife Marie met while students at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. Now at home in Old Greenwich, Connecticut, Tom Stacy describes himself as slightly offbeat, perhaps a prerequisite to playing this unique instrument.
You're very, very lucky in that way.
And not some other things.
But before Tom Stacy and the English horn got together, he studied piano and violin as a child in Augusta, Arkansas, population 3,000.
My mother came to the town of Augusta as a public school music teacher. So we had good music in the home, record collections. And we went to concerts in Memphis and in Little Rock, so I had some exposure. But it is a long way. On sunny Sunday afternoons, I always caddied for my father. But if it was raining, I listened to the New York Philharmonic. And I thought that would be a really neat thing to do. I love orchestra playing. I like solo playing too, but you should hear the New York Philharmonic from where I sit. Oh, it's wonderful.
There is only one English horn player per orchestra. Occupying that seat in the New York Philharmonic makes quite a statement about Tom Stacy's artistic ability. He has held that position for 15 years. You are actually a solo player within an orchestra. Are nerves a problem for you?
Rarely.
Is that something that you have developed over the years, or have you always been a gutsy player?
I've always been a little gutsy.
I guess to come from Arkansas and play the English horn.
You gotta be gutsy, right?
Gutsy and shrewd. It was the hypnotic sound of the oboe that first drew Tom Stacy, not the English horn. But a teacher at the Eastman School once told him, there are a lot of old English horn players and a lot of young first oboists, so perhaps you should consider specializing in English horn. Those words proved prophetic.
Now it's your turn. Keep the sound.
Tom Stacy hasn't forgotten that teacher, and now hopes to change other students' lives as a teacher himself at the Juilliard School.
Good. Now change the color. Make this phrase a different color. Well, I teach and I try to bring every student to their highest level for their own fulfillment. And I warn them that there are not many jobs out there. There are an enormous amount of applicants for every position, so it will be tough. In this view right here, don't get to the D flat too soon. It's a hard fingering, so you tend to play it early in sounds. I just teach with a different outlook. One of our children is learning disabled, and that's given me great compassion in teaching. And when you change the color there, make it super legato after you've played them.
Like many musicians, most of Tom Stacy's time is spent in search of the right sound.
I'm putting a few finishing touches on this reed I made this morning. The reason that double reed players make their own reeds is because the reeds are as individualistic as the players themselves. It is a part of making the magic happen, which is the bottom line, because I think listeners want a sound they can reach out and touch. And the sound itself must have a personality, like a good red wine.
The melancholy sound of this instrument does translate from classical to contemporary music, but the repertoire for the English horn is one of the most limited. Tell me about that love of the instrument. What is it that draws you to it?
Its sound is special to me.
Can you describe it to me?
Not over the air. No, I don't know, it has a sensual quality, a sensuousness that no other instrument has, I think. I just enjoy the moment of music making. I want it always to sound spectacular, better than the time before. That's the thing about music. Once it's gone forever.
What does music give to you in your life?
Someone once said, the artist has a bear hug on life. I try to maintain that squeeze.
asked for a fighter to be based right at the front, so McDonnell Douglas built the AV-8B. Hospitals asked for a way out of the paper blizzard, so we build the information systems now used in 1 out of 5 U.S. hospitals. Airlines want to save fuel, so we're testing aircraft with new kinds of jet engines to cut fuel consumption over 40%. We're creating breakthroughs in aviation, space, and information systems. We're McDonnell Douglas.
You're on your way.
Kids and science can really get together in the right kind of place. So Dow has developed and funded the Touch Tech Laboratory here at Impression 5 in Lansing, Michigan.
In this particular experiment, we're going to make a solid out of 2 liquids.
It's a hands-on museum that puts the wonders of science at a child's fingertips.
Here you go, PJ.
And who knows what that could lead to.
Dow lets you do great things.
We're in Boston at world-famous Maison Robert restaurant. And we're secretly replacing Robert's freshly ground coffee with mountain-grown Folgers crystals. Will it be rich enough?
It's delicious.
It's Folgers crystals.
I'm shocked. Because, I tell you, he only drinks fresh brewed. He can talk about how great the coffee's been tonight. This tastes like fresh ground coffee.
Mountain-grown Folgers crystals. Coffee rich enough to be served in America's finest restaurants.
This tastes just like fresh brewed to me. I can't believe it.
I'll take that with climate control and 6-way power seats. Gotta have that.
How much can you save on 18 new Buick models? It's your option. You can save up to $1,200.
Oh, aluminum wheels. Yeah, that'll look sharp.
Sounds good,
Power windows.
You can take your savings as a cash rebate, apply it to the down payment or the lease payment. It's a better time to buy. So see your participating Buick dealer for details now.
Grand touring suspension.
Buick, where better really matters.
Ooh, and I want the concert sound system.
Last week, part of a wilderness in Oregon, a place called Bunker Hill, was sold by the federal government to a big lumber company. Many of the trees that grow on Bunker Hill have been growing there since before the first Battle of Bunker Hill, the Revolutionary War one. And a lot of people feel those trees are an important part of our history, too. Marlene Sanders tells the story of the second Battle of Bunker Hill.
The rolling hills of the Northwest were once covered with thousands of acres of cedar and hemlock, Douglas firs and spruce. When the settlers and the loggers came, the tallest of the great trees came tumbling down.
They're cutting them down just as fast as they can. Soon the old growth will be gone from our forest land. I never thought I'd see them take all the trees. The trees were just there, like the river, the breeze.
Today, there is a battle going on over the fate of 110 acres of government-owned land. It's in a section of Oregon near Eugene, where some of the centuries-old trees called old growth still reach toward the sky.
They're cutting right now while I sing this song.
The federal government has sold the rights to cut 43 acres of old-growth Douglas firs in an area called Bunker Hill. The environmentalists are trying to save the rest of Bunker Hill, but it's not an easy fight because the mature timber on Bunker Hill is worth millions.
Why can't we have a few little places like Bunker Hill left?
James Monteith is head of the Oregon National Resources Council. To him, this is not just ordinary commercial timberland.
In the Northwest, we generally refer to trees that are 250 years or older than the country, obviously older than the Republic. Trees that were here when Columbus sailed to America, trees that were here when the Magna Carta was signed. There are trees in Oregon that live to be 1,000, 1,200 years old, and these are the trees that are being cut down now. Oregon's way of life, and to cut that down is to commit suicide and bring on the Appalachia that we know we don't need.
The current Battle of Bunker Hill has several opposing forces, none willing to surrender.
Trees are grown to be harvested. That's what this country has done with its public forests for centuries.
I think the problem with all of us here is that we aren't on boards of directors of timber companies, or else they'd be listening to you.
Over 40% of the jobs in the state of Oregon are directly or indirectly dependent upon the wood products industry. About 70,000 jobs in the state.
Dennis Hayward is a spokesman for the lumber industry.
We have set aside already about 2.5 million acres of old growth in the Northwest. It's a matter of balance. And that's set aside in wilderness and parks and special areas to be preserved. The rest of the land, which is old growth, which is the basis of our timber supply, if you take it out of production, then you will wipe out 50% of Oregon's timber industry.
There's no question that timber will always play an important part of the Northwest economy, but timber doesn't play the role at all that it used to. Timber is a very highly declining industry in the Northwest. Other industries, such as tourism and fisheries, which we've mentioned, and others, are where the job increases are. And if we want a stable economy and we want jobs in the future, we've got to leave some of these old trees standing.
A good portion of the trees are going to be harvested. The area is replanted for second growth and new forests. Every state has their special thing that they do for this country, and Oregon is a state that grows trees and harvests trees and produces lumber. It is the driving force in our economy.
What do you think the real issue is here on the Bunker Hill debate?
The Bunker Hill is symbolic only. The 110 acres involved are just average timberlands, and they're probably low-quality old growth. But it's a symbol, as they pick these little areas for symbol.
Scientists view the trees not as symbols, but as vital to the health of the environment.
We're looking at the products, not the processes that produce the system that allow the trees to exist.
Biologist Chris Mazer says removing all of the old growth takes nutrients from the earth that support animal and plant life as well as forests.
We may be able to do without trees, but it has got to be water and soil forever. If we eliminate the old growth, then all we're going to have is young forests, which are really not forests, they're plantations. And they're just big Christmas tree farms, but the snags and the logs will be missing. Wildlife will therefore be missing, and nutrient cycling will be disrupted. What we don't understand is what this will do to the sustainability of those systems through time, of those plantations through time.
Decisions on what will happen to public forest land that contains old growth are made by the federal government. Bill Lesher is the state director of the Bureau of Land Management. Here that there's a large segment of the population here that just feels that the government has sold them down the river, that they're selling out this legacy, this long history of beauty and of some use just for commercial interests. Is there an answer to that?
No, I don't believe it is just for commercial interest. I think we have put together a relatively balanced program out here to provide for industry, to provide for recreation use, to provide for fisheries, everything that a multiple use agency like the Bureau of Land Management is responsible for.
Now, what we're going to do, we're going to open the gate and allow you folks to go up there, look at the old growth on Bunker Hill.
Before the logging of Bunker Hill was to begin, the Bureau of Land Management allowed local residents to take a last look.
In effect, say goodbye to the trees since we're scheduled to start harvesting next week.
Okay, let's go. I've been using the area even before all this started happening. We would walk up there. We took school groups up to the old growth. This particular patch of old growth is our local hill. It's a promontory. It's a patch of old growth on the very top of the hill, and it's looking down upon a lot of homes that have views of it. And so it's our local place to go. When people come from out of town, that's where we go to visit and see the beavers and just take a nice walk up the hill. So it's because it's such a special patch of old growth is why we decided this is the one to save, you guys. Come on, don't cut every last tree.
I believe that these people firmly believe, what they're saying. But I think they're looking at it emotionally, and they're looking at it from just one side of the coin, which you would expect. I think we have to look at it from a lot broader perspective, which is what we're doing. and looking at all sides of the issue.
Soon the old growth will be gone from our forest land.
The protest did not save Bunker Hill. The trees have been cut down on those 43 acres. Only appeals to Congress can save the rest.
Like many issues, Bunker Hill appears to be a lost cause. There have been many, many cases like this throughout the West. Dams in the Grand Canyon or in the Snake River, the loss of the redwoods, of which have been grasped from the jaws of death. It's important that these martyrs, if you will, be seen as symbolic of the major issue which we still need to face in the Northwest, and that is whether or not we can make the decision to protect what we have left. And this is the time when we have to make that decision.
If you wait any longer, it may be too late.
I would predict that when Bunker Hill is done, the environmentalists will just move to select the next timber sale that has old growth on it and start the whole process over again.
For they're cutting them down just as fast as they can. Soon the old growth will be gone from our forest land.
No one in the Battle of Bunker Hill will concede permanent defeat. Not the government, not the environmentalists, not the timber industry. The battle over the great trees of the Northwest goes on.
From the earth to the sky, I sure do hate to see that old growth die. Pretty soon you know.
Hello, I'm Bob Barker. If you're over 65, I'd like to talk to you for a moment about Medicare. If you've been in the hospital recently, you may have been shocked to learn that Medicare doesn't come close to paying all your medical bills. In fact, the deductible, now that's the part you have to pay, has shot up to $520 for 1987. And that's just for one day in the hospital. To help protect yourself today, you probably know that you need a good Medicare supplement plan. But let's face it, choosing one is kind of tough because they all look pretty much alike, but not anymore. Medicare 65 from National Benefit Life is different from all the rest in two very important ways. First, filing claims has never been easier. That's because with Medicare 65, there are no claim forms. That's right, no claim forms. When you have a claim, just call the toll-free number on your service card and National Benefit will take care of the rest. No confusing paperwork. And no delays in getting this, a benefit check sent directly to you. And listen to this, Medicare 65 gives you something else none of the rest do. 6 full months of skilled nursing coverage at absolutely no cost to you. What's more, your acceptance is guaranteed. In fact, no one over 65 can be turned down for any reason. Don't miss out on this valuable opportunity. Pick up the phone right now and call for this free information kit. It comes in the mail, so no agent will ever visit. It only takes a couple of minutes to read, but when you do, you'll see why Medicare 65 is different from all the rest, and why it's the right choice to make.
To get your free information kit, call toll-free 1-800-221-4800. That's toll-free 1-800-221-4800. Call now. The information is free, and so is the call. That number again is 1-800-221-4800.
Ron Powers has been musing on the ways television is changing the printed page. Ron?
Charles? Well, American newspapers have been radically transformed by television. That's a fact of evolution that nearly everyone knows by now. Those papers that haven't been made extinct by the video age have survived by adapting to it. Like television, they've gone all breezy, colorful, entertaining. They're long on random bits of data and celebrity profiles, but short on passion, depth, a sense of connection to ideas. Here's a good example of the modern newspaper as freeze-dried television, the front page of my hometown paper a few nights ago. The big banner story was all about the impact of the ABC television miniseries America, with its theme of a Soviet takeover. A smaller story beneath it mentioned that the actual Soviet leader is worried about an actual war. Well, believe it or not, these might soon be remembered as the good old days. the days when there still was some distinction between what is print and what is broadcast. This coming Tuesday, a metropolitan daily paper, the Detroit Free Press, will make history. It will cover a breaking news event by assigning a reporter to watch it on television. It's an experiment. The event is the musical Grammy Awards from Los Angeles, but it could open up a new billion-dollar industry. Satellite-delivered news services beaming video images to local newspaper offices from around the nation and the world. The reporter as viewer, the newspaper as channel. Let's see how it might work.
Via satellite, Pro Video promotes worldwide. Tour America in 4 hours.
Pro Video is a company based in Los Angeles. It transmits news and entertainment packages to about 650 television stations around the country, as well as to the major networks. But now, Pro Video wants to expand its market. Its president, whose name is Gail Cotman, wants to add newspapers to her client list. For the price of a downlinking dish, a daily paper can receive the same packaged images, the same coverage of events as Pro Video's client stations. Pro Video's profit comes from the stars and the entertainment companies who pay the agency for media access.
Hi, I'm Jack Lemmon, and this is Spotlight Hollywood.
Hello, I'm Linda Evans, and welcome to Spotlight Hollywood.
Hi, gang, I'm Max Headroom, and this is Spotlight Hollywood.
And now, Pro Video is ready to sell hard news images to newspapers. If you're handy with fine tuning, you could be a star reporter. If you can figure out the chromacolor dial, you could win a Pulitzer. But really, what's wrong with television as an added tool in the newsroom? Maybe nothing's wrong. Maybe it's just an extension of the telephone. Maybe it never will replace a reporter on the scene, as everybody at Pro Video is assuring us right now. Maybe. But the Pro Video people are making some other claims. They claim their satellite video feed could, quote, restructure print journalism. And that's what bothers me. Print journalism has been restructured quite a bit already, thank you, by the influence of video, and not at all for the better. There is something about the very nature of newspapers at their best, something intimate, searching, descriptive, something involved, that the surrogate eye of television can only diminish. Call me a romantic. I like to think of newspaper reporters in trench coats, not in undershirts and bathrobes.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Greed on Wall Street, the insider trading scandal, prosecutor Giuliani, and more on Face the Nation today.
Monday, Cagney and Lacey investigate a heavenly scam.
Sending messages to dead people.
The woman's a screwball.
She's killing my mother.
Cagney, Lacey, you take her down. This is CBS.
These days, you hear a lot of noise from herbicide companies. Noise about their prices, noise about saving money, and a lot of noise about costing less than Dual and Bicep. But with our rebate program, this year you can save $2 a gallon on Dual and $1 a gallon on Bicep. And if you're interested in the best possible weed control, that's the kind of noise you want to hear. The Dual and Bicep rebate program. See your dealer for details.
Hi, this is Dave Buzik inviting you to join us on Sunday evenings at 5:30 for Time Capsule. Each week, we take an in-depth look at the people, places, and events of our state. Recently, we learned about the dangerous problem of farmer's lung disease. We heard a down-to-earth explanation of why insurance premiums are rising so rapidly. We visited the majestic Fitz Mansion in Des Moines, flew with the Iowa Air National Guard, and went clam hunting along the Mississippi River. The stories of our state during our time, all placed into the Time Capsule Sunday evenings at 5:30 here on TV8.
This is KCCI, TV8 in Des Moines.
This portion of Sunday Morning is sponsored by delicious Citrus Hills Select Orange Juice. It gets your juices flowing.
If the only juice you've had started out with Mom and Dad, then you're really missing out on what Citrus Hills about. Oh, you dig, it's going and your juices get flowing. Citrus Hills Select a squeeze from the heart. It's the taste so fresh and sweet, you feel it right down to your feet. Citrus Hills Select.
future's looking new and bright. It is. And you're gonna start it right. I am. Cause there's Folgers for you that's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings brighten with mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown coffee beans have a more enticing aroma.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Day's really shaping up.
Come on, admit it. It was a great shot. For a beginner. Beginner, 2 out of 3, pal. 2 out of 3.
I think you're still trying to get even because I have the higher grade point average.
Yeah, and as I recall, the lower starting salary.
Yeah, but at the hottest shop in town.
Yeah, as an assistant to an assistant.
Oh, okay. So who was first as the vice president?
And last with a corner office.
But if I can land the North Bay project,
Yeah?
I'm talking senior partnership.
Really? There's a look.
You tell me.
What a production. You guys must have had outside help on this one.
No way. We put the whole thing together ourselves.
Come on.
No, really. We did everything on our computer.
Revenue projections, impact studies.
Everything.
So, what kind of computer?
Well, I'm running late.
Come on, what kind of computer?
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
This morning we are hooked into both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. This is Phil Jones on Capitol Hill, and over there's Bill Plante standing in front of the White House. And we have so much to talk about this morning, I hardly know where to begin. Let's begin with the Tower Commission report, which is going to come out this week. Phil, is this report on the Iran-Contra affair and how the White House handled it going to be hard on President Reagan?
Well, from all we hear, it's going to be very hard on him, and they have had access to everything and everybody they need, including the president. As far as the 2 select committees up here, the House and the Senate, they are just really getting going. They have issued about 50 subpoenas. They have accumulated several large boxes of documents from the executive branch of government. But really, they have been hiring staff, trying to get going, and they are not nearly as far along as the Tower Commission. These 2 committees will probably receive briefings sometime this week before the Tower Commission report is made public.
The ironic thing, about the Tower Commission report is that as bad as as embarrassing as it's going to be, it's still the White House's best hope. Because if it seems to lay out and answer almost all of the questions connected with this, it could allow them to get a little momentum going here and put that off to the side. Otherwise, they have to wait 6 to 8 to 9 months for the select committee's reports.
Bill, while all this has been going on, I think the country has been puzzled by the deafening silence from the White House. Why haven't they been able to get a grip on this thing over there?
Well, a couple of things. There is, as everybody knows by now, an internal feud here that has become absolutely poisonous. The First Lady is making no bones of the fact that she wants the President's Chief of Staff, Donald Regan, to leave. They went through this exercise in December, and things settled down for a bit. And now they're heated up full swing, and I think that Mr. Regan's days are numbered. I'm sure he won't be here much longer than, well, I hesitate to make an exact prediction, but a couple of weeks at most. And that has slowed things down here considerably. The President's recuperation from his surgery has held things up, too, particularly because the First Lady has insisted that he take it very easy. She doesn't want him to travel, and that's the source of some of her arguments with Mr. Regan, the Chief of Staff. She insists that he lay back. But the real puzzle, I think, is why the President of the United States doesn't make his own wishes known. Now, he's always been fairly laid back and passive in such matters. He's never liked firing anybody. He's never liked confrontations. But this is a case where things are rapidly getting out of hand.
They got a little bit more out of hand this morning when the secretary to Colonel Oliver North, former secretary down there in the basement of the White House, said, with immunity from prosecution, that sure, she helped shred a bunch of documents. She helped Colonel North destroy evidence just hours before investigators were going to come over there and take a look. If that isn't a criminal accusation, what is it? either one of you?
I think it certainly is, but I think the implications for the White House, Charles, are that the Tower Commission, we understand, sources tell CBS News, is going to find that Donald Regan helped to direct or orchestrate what is bound to be called a cover-up. Now, maybe that's a loaded word that we shouldn't use, but they were trying to construct a scenario last November that would put the president in the best possible light. And the Tower Commission probably is going to say, at least so sources tell us, that Mr. Regan had a big effort in directing that. And that's going to make it even harder for him to stick around and may expose people like Oliver North to criminal charges, as you say.
Charles, one thing, I think the two committees up here have been really planning on offering use immunity to Lieutenant Colonel North at the appropriate time, and perhaps to some of the other participants, Admiral Poindexter and retired Air Force General Secord, who has been involved in the alleged transfer or diversion of funds to the Contras. But I would think this latest development this morning really presents a certain problem for the two committees up here, because they were asked earlier by the Special Independent Counsel not to give this use immunity to North or Poindexter because it would interfere with the Independent Counsel's investigation. Now, if you look at what information he has from the secretary, and she allegedly has been granted immunity to tell how they shredded documents, things begin to build against Colonel North. And I think it's going to be more difficult for the two committees up here to grant Colonel North immunity to get his side of the story.
Then you probably just won't get it in that case, right? He said today that he'd be glad to talk when his lawyer advises him that'd be a good idea, but certainly hasn't said anything yet.
Well, that's true, but let me just tell you, some people up here involved in the investigation, at least at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue, believe that Colonel North should be called in very early and sworn in and start asking him questions, because many of them up here believe that he is really dying to tell his story, that this is a way for him to sort of get back in the good graces of his Marine colleagues who feel that he has let them down, and that for the total Ollie North story that may be worth, at least $2 or $3 million when this is over, he will look like a bigger hero if, in fact, he does voluntarily testify. So this theory is going on up here, and I think that they, up until this morning, I think everybody expected Colonel North to, at some point, come in and tell his story without too much trouble.
Listen, Phil, so far I think it's fair to say the Democrats there on the Hill have been fairly polite as regards the president himself and his role in this thing. But it got a little rougher last week when Senator Byrd said the president can't keep his stories straight. And if this Tower Commission report is as hard on President Reagan and Don Regan as it appears it's going to be, aren't they going to take some political gloves off up there?
Oh, I think they are, and to be very honest, I think there are going to be a whole lot of Republicans take off their political gloves, too. The Republicans up here see the demise of the GOP party in 1988. If this thing is not taken care of, you go to almost any Republican up here, and they will tell you that they are just as upset with Donald Regan as Nancy Reagan is. And as one senior Republican told me this week, says, look, it's only a matter of days for Regan. He's already been shot. We're just waiting for him to fall over dead.
Well, both of you buried him this morning. Yeah, Bill.
Well, one of the things that concerns a lot of people here at the White House who are only on the fringes of the personality battles and clashes is what happens to the institution of the presidency. Now, certainly Ronald Reagan looks like a weakened president. Can he bring it back? If positive action isn't taken soon, it probably means, and it may already mean, that there's nothing he can do in the remaining 2 years of his term to get back to anything like the momentum and popularity that he once enjoyed. And
Charles, this place, along with what Bill's saying, this place is totally preoccupied with Iran. Yes, there are some budget hearings going on and a few other things, but generally speaking, nobody is doing anything or talking about anything except this whole scandal.
And yet we get a lot of mail that says to us, why are you concentrating on that all the time? We out here in the rest of the country don't care about it anymore. And that may be the case, but it sure has folks preoccupied here.
Well, when the Tower Commission report comes out, if it's as tough as they say it might be, it'll probably stir up interest in the country again. Wouldn't you say? It just looks to me like it's going to be a very bad week for President Reagan, Bill.
Well, there's some initiative around here to get him out on the road as soon as possible, get him before reporters. You know, he hasn't had a news conference since November 19th, to answer some questions and then get him out on the road to make a pitch for his competitiveness package that is one positive step that they've tried to take, one initiative that they've tried to take from the White House, and see if they can divert people's attention from this thing.
Change the subject, in other words.
That's right.
Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea from their point of view.
Charles, one Republican up here said this week that they had originally hoped that the best scenario from a political standpoint would be that you had Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North sort of out of control down there. And from this Republican's point of view, what you're going to see in the Tower Commission is showing that the whole White House foreign policy apparatus was just totally out of control.
Yeah. Well, fascinating week coming up. Thank you both for joining us, as always.
This portion of Sunday Morning is sponsored by the people of Dow.
Well, what are you doing at Dow these days, Peggy?
Well, right now I'm working in agricultural research, Grandpa. We're trying to help farmers find new ways to make every dollar work harder.
We want to keep this farm in the family a few more generations.
Pretty tough, isn't it?
You bet. So your dad and brother are going to need all the help they can get.
And you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I won't let you down.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
Aren't you going to say anything about this Pontiac 6000?
Oh, you mean about how well it handles, how quick it is, how it's one fine road car?
Well, yeah.
Come on, if I said all that, we'd sound like a car commercial.
We will excite.
Singers will do that.
Pontiac!
Sometimes cooking gets a little messy. That's why Whirlpool ranges are easy to clean, with cooktops that wipe up quickly and ovens that do the cleaning for you, all to make your world a little easier.
Whirlpool. Finding a phone in a car isn't that unusual anymore, except when it leaves the car, for greener pastures, the high seas, or a leisurely lunch. Radio Shack keeps you in constant communication with their affordable, transportable cellular telephone.
Hello? Oh, yes, he's right here. It's for you.
Yes, I heard about the merger. Buy 100 shares.
The affordable, transportable cellular telephone, only at Radio Shack.
This is dedicated to the ones we love.
You know what your problem is, Eric?
Alice?
You're 43 years old, and you still eat cold pizza and donuts for breakfast.
So that's it.
All that sugar, all those preservatives.
Hold it. Should I try Nutri-Grain?
Delicious Nutri-Grain, only the whole grain, with no preservatives and no sugar added.
Goodbye.
Oh, wait. Does this mean you love me?
Yes.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Last week they started throwing baseballs around in the warm sun of Florida and Arizona. That blessed time is here, spring training. Judy Muller has a story about a baseball player who is also a gardener of sorts. The player's name is Mookie. The garden he tends is in his own backyard, Lakewood, New Jersey. And the flowers that blossom with his help we call Mookie's Roses.
Dramatic home run by Mookie Wilson.
So Wilson steals second as Hernandez takes strike two.
Out 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
The Mets won the World Series last fall, and Mookie Wilson won the heart of New York. He's come a long way from Earhart, South Carolina.
I was raised in a small town on a farm, actually, with a very large family.
How large?
12 kids. Okay, I don't know where that fits in the scale.
It's large.
But yeah. Actually, the area's not very much.
Mookie's wife, Rosa, also grew up in a large family in the same small town.
Play with each other.
It is nice out here.
It is.
What is it about Lakewood, New Jersey that reminds you
of Earhart, South Carolina?
Well, it's the people, dude. The closer to the people, you can walk the streets and people, they actually speak. You know, which is kind of funny, but they do.
I'm going to be busting it out in the fashion show. I can't wait. Oh, somebody what if I fall? What if I fall?
And there's something else Mookie learned back home. If people are in trouble, if they need a helping hand, you help out.
We have been talking about doing something in the community, I think, after our second year. We said, let's do something for the community.
What they've done is get involved with a girls' club at the Lakewood Community Center. Why a girls' club? You would think a baseball player, a male role model would want to start a boys' club. Why did you choose girls?
I must admit that I choose girls because my wife, actually.
I was pointing out to them that boys have everything around here. They have a boys' club. They have the YMCA. They also have the summer basketball league and the baseball league and, you know, everything. So it was to me like there was nothing for young ladies to look forward to.
That's changing.
Mookie and I, when we first met the young ladies, you know, we explained to them that we were actually going to be there. It wasn't a place or it wasn't a club where we were just going to be there in name only.
This day, Mookie and Rosa Wilson took the girls to the New York Stock Exchange.
You know, it's just like on television where the chairman of the board sits here at the table and you got this long table with 15 people sitting around. And here we are sitting and this lady comes in and starts talking to us and the girls are looking around like, you know, wow, are we actually in the stock exchange? Is this building where they talk about Dow Jones and all this stuff? This is it. You know, it was almost like a fantasy too.
It was a fantasy with a strong dose of reality.
Growing up in the ghetto myself, one thing that we never learned about was stocks, bonds, business. No one ever taught us about that. I know my coworkers were brought up with stocks, bonds from the time they were 4 or 5 years old. Their father or mother had the Wall Street Journal, the Times, Barron's on the kitchen table every morning. And kids like
Gail Pankey went to work after high school as a messenger on the floor of the stock exchange. Now, she's a trader.
And believe me, if I did it, any one of you can do it. Okay? So I moved from Fort Greene with my friend dying in a hallway from an overdose to building a house in the Princeton area last year in a matter of 16 years. Okay? You tell me you're different from me.
I think she's a good figure, you know, to try to follow. Because she's been through, generally she knows our story. I like being here because I want to work here. All this hustle and bustle here, I wouldn't want to do it, you know. I'd like to stick more along the lines of a quiet job, you know. I want to be a criminal defense attorney.
That day, traders who usually stop for nothing stopped trading to yell and wave at Mookie.
The name Mookie's Roses was not my idea. That was not my idea.
Yes, we got our club's name from Mookie and Rosa, right? Because, you know, that's their name, so we just named it Mookie's Roses, you know, since he is, you know, they're part of our club.
Can you see a comparison with roses with these young ladies?
Yes, I can understand how that comes up. A rose is one of the most beautiful flowers probably in the world. It comes in different colors, you know, different patterns, and which is the personalities of people so much different. This group, we gonna have different cultures, Latins, whites, blacks, you know, Jewish, you name it. You know, we're not gonna restrict this to any one cultural people. And the beauty of a rose is that's the personality. We want the beautiful personality that people will look and admire the personalities of these young ladies. It's not just another flower. This is a rose, and that's what we're trying to get across these girls.
It's done right at the Constitutional Convention itself.
The club is also trying to get something else across. You can't grow a beautiful rose without hard work. To stay in the club, the girls have to stay in school.
Like when before I was in the club, I used to, hang out, with my friends. I never really did my work or anything. It was up to me to do my work. But now, I like to be in the club, and since, I'm in the club, in order to stay, I have to do my work, so it makes me get better in my grades and everything.
There are other rules, too.
Not allowed to drink. And
no drugs, either.
That's easy.
Would you like to take over the meeting, or want me to continue on?
2 of the 20 members of Mookie's Roses have children of their own, and another is expecting. Mookie and Rosa said that you were all considering a rule, no pregnancy. What do you think of that rule? Would that be fair?
Yes, I think it's fair because we should watch what we do anyway.
What were your dreams before you joined this club? Were they different, or did you have the same kinds of hopes?
I had the same hopes, but it's like, well, am I ever going to get to do it? Before, it was like, oh, it's just a dream. But now I think I'm going to achieve. I hope. I think I know. I am.
Also, I need a comb. I forgot my lady.
The fashion show, I thought I was going to die before I went out on that stage.
We even had one girl who refused to model to the last minute. So I told her, I said, look, if I can do it, you can do it too.
If I can do it, you can do it too. Tell them that often enough, says Mookie, and they'll begin to believe it.
Look, if I could make it from a town of 1,000 people, and end up playing in a city of 8 million,
And stop the New York Stock Exchange.
And stop the stock cold. I mean, it moved, that anything is possible, but you have to have that desire. And that's the main thing we want to instill in these young ladies is you got to have that desire.
You earned it.
Taste this.
The whole thing?
Uh-huh.
That's a big crunch for such a little thing.
That little thing's packed with goodness.
I can believe it with a crunch like that. It's got a nice nutty taste.
And it has no added sugar or preservatives.
There's no room.
Huh.
What are these little things?
Grape nut cereal.
Grape nuts? I could go for a whole bowl full.
You got it.
Have a bowl of crunchy, nutty, packed with goodness grape nuts today.
This is a stately English manor, home to the highborn throughout the centuries. It has 118 rooms and this superb Adam fireplace. Everything is sumptuous and expensive. This is Master Blend coffee. Smells and tastes equally sumptuous, expensive, not on your Nelly, which is why I choose Master Blend over stately English manners. It not only costs less, it's a lot easier to keep warm.
Master Blend. It only tastes expensive.
Something stirring, and there's no denying its energy, its arrival. This phenomenon goes by the name of Daytona. The brand new front-wheel drive Dodge Daytona. Be prepared for even more excitement per mile. Dodge Daytona. Dodge, setting new standards of performance.
Satellites need maintenance and refueling, so McDonnell Douglas is helping NASA plan a space station that will be an ideal satellite service center. Communities asked for peace and quiet, so we developed a tail rotor that cuts our helicopter's noise in half. Aerospace plane designers need a low-cost way to test ideas. Our simulators evaluate flight systems before they're built. We are creating breakthroughs in aviation, space, and information systems. We're McDonnell Douglas.
In the news of this Sunday morning, the United States bombing raids on Libya were deliberate attempts to kill Muammar Gaddafi and his family, according to a story in today's New York Times Magazine. The attempts were said to have been ordered by the White House. Thousands of Syrian troops are advancing toward Beirut this morning, Syria's effort to put an end to bloody factional fighting there, which killed more than 200 people last week. Jewish dissident Yosef Begun, who was freed last week after 3 years in a Soviet prison, says he hopes to emigrate to Israel. We're going to leave you this morning on what is really a startling patch of land between Gary, Indiana and Michigan City. The Indiana Dunes. Little pocket of desert has been preserved there on the shores of Lake Michigan. I'm Charles Kuralt. I hope you'll join us here again next Sunday morning.
Leslie Stahl, greed on Wall Street, the insider trading scandal, prosecutor Giuliani, and more on Face the Nation today.
Today, two flashes of greatness. Magic and the Lakers take on Barkley and the Sixers. Followed by a pair of old rivals in the midst of the Big East battle. Reggie Williams leads Georgetown against the Orangemen of Syracuse. Then play continues at the Los Angeles Open, sponsored by Nissan. Today on CBS Sports. Charges of child abuse.
She alleged that I sexually abused the child, my child.
Of 1.5 million allegations a year, how many are real and how many are just one more weapon in bitter child custody battles?
It's something that doesn't go away. It's with you every day of your life.
Bernard Goldberg reports tomorrow on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
This is CBS.
Don't miss the vacations of a lifetime on the next Runaway with the Rich and Famous. Gavin McLeod is back on the high seas on a Virgin Island cruise to sizzling St. Thomas in the sun-drenched Caribbean. Then the luck of the Irish takes Heidi Bohey to the best the Emerald Isle has to offer. Superstars in the know seek the chic exclusive haunts along the sexy French Riviera. It's your ticket to ride on the next Runaway.
Join Robin Leach this Sunday at midnight on TV8.
Children believe what their parents tell them.
You're pathetic. You can't do anything right.